Hey everyone. Good morning, everybody. Hey, good morning, Karen. How are you? Hello, hello. Hey, good morning. Good to see you. Hello, gang. Hello, hello. Good morning, Donna. Great to see you today. Judy, how are you? Jack, hello. Good to see you as well. Hope you're well. I'm waving back. Good morning, everybody. Glad you're here. Finding your way. Hello, hello. How are you? What is happening? Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It's a good day. Just by way of commercial, we have our Advent devotionals that are around. So if anybody's interested in keeping, they have in them a little prayer and a reflection about the day. So you can keep all the days of Advent from now until, if anybody's interested, there's some in the back, some here at church, or we can send one along to you. So do let us know. So that it'd be so that is something we're offering. So let's get going this morning. It is the 30th day of November here at 11:11, and I'm glad you're with us. I'm glad you're a part of this journey. Um, Donna is doing good. A little anxious about surgery on the 13th. Absolutely, Donna, and we're going to keep you in our prayers for sure on all that's coming up. So you're not facing any of that alone. But today is the 11:30. It is the feast day of St. Andrew. Thank you very much. That's right. Yeah, no. Boy, St. Andrew's feast day is today. This is the day that um, is lifted up in all sorts of places in Romania and Poland and Barbados, but also in Scotland, which is really the high place of where the Saint Patrick and or Saint Andrew and is understood. And it's an incredible story because Andrew is considered the apostle to the East in some ways. Now, he doesn't go as far as Thomas. Thomas actually makes it to India. But Andrew goes through the Black Sea, all to the west. Really, he's even the apostle to what are called the Scythians, which, if you think about like the bad guys in Conan the Barbarian who had like the things on their head and all that, that was kind of the Scythians. They wore leather, they shaped their heads all kind of funny. They were terrifying people. And Andrew was the apostle to even the Scythians. And so he, throughout the Black Sea, came back and would be martyred in 60 AD in Greece, and they would and he would end up being crucified, but not on the cross, the traditional cross, but he would end up being crucified with a cross of as an X, which like Paul was or like Peter was crucified upside down, so that he would, because he was not worthy to be crucified the way that Jesus was. So too did Andrew uh, um, submit himself to martyrdom. Now, what does any of that have to do with Scotland? And this is the fun. This is where I think it becomes fun, and this is why I want to tell you this story today. Is that hundreds of years later, a guy by the name of Regulus, Saint Rule, comes along, and Rule decide Rule. That's his name. Rule ended up having this dream, and he is a monk, and he has this dream, and he says it is time. It is critical that we take the bones of Andrew to the ends of the earth. Now, Andrew, in many ways, was the apostle to the ends of the earth. He went to those far regions of the Russian steppes, to the far to what was really the end of the world in the known Roman world. But he had not been in the other direction. And Rule comes and ends up with his time and his um, ends up with his ends up with his um, his call through his dream, and through that call and through that dream ends up coming to the Scythians, or coming to the Scottish people. And it is actually through a shipwreck that he ends up at the very point of Fife, at the very end of the tip of Scotland, and in that place. No, it's not just where golf was invented. That's a whole other story. But in that place, he begins to ends up beginning to preach and teach um, and begin the ministry. This is literally ministry. The ministry of Andrew goes to the very ends of the earth in both directions. The ends of the earth are an interesting idea, and the whole, in fact, the whole biblical story can be the story of two people lost in the woods, and this expansive nature of God's love and God's grace spreading and spreading and spreading until it spreads to all the universe, until it spreads to all people everywhere, until it spreads so far. And that's not, I'm not talking just about people who have heard the name of Christ. I'm talking about the love that God has for the world, and the love that God has for all people ends up being articulated out into the world in the very coming of the gospel. That just because you've heard of Jesus doesn't mean that that which has taken place is not for the very salvation of the world. And that's the power of this. That's the power of this time. That's the power of this moment. That's the power of this, is that we end up in the ends, contending with the ends of the earth. We end up being held in this grace that is outside of any of the poles of our life that we could imagine. And it's, I think, the power of the story of the St. Andrew's Day, that quite literally the first apostle, the first called, as Andrew is called, the first called is the one that should go to the very ends of the earth, go to both ends, go to the east and the west, and that it is almost as if between these two poles that all of creation and all of salvation is possible and present. And it's true for your life too. That the things you're afraid of, the things that you think are just so bad or so horrible or so beyond you, that they're outside of the ends of the earth. They're outside there. There's no place for them under God's good creation. And the story of St. Andrew would tell you otherwise. It would tell you that Andrew is there, marking the fact that from east to west, from north to south, anywhere you go, God's grace and God's love is waiting there for you, and is in you, and is supporting you. This is what God has in store. This is the hope that God is working out. This is the love that God has for our world. And it's the story of one guy and and then the story of another guy. Story of Andrew, called by Jesus. The story of Rule, who is called again in dream. And the story again and again and again, just as you and I work it out with one another, just as we gather on this little on this little screen in this little place. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you from here today was to remind you that we're not just connected, you and me, but we are connected to this long line of saints, all the all the 110 years of pastors that have stood on at this pulpit, the long line of saints that have worshipped in these pews and who have brought to them and to their lives the 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 joy, the worry, the anxiety, the wonders, uh, whether on this in this part of the on in this world or the next, they are ever and always a part of this journey. From Jesus to Andrew to Rule, and now to you and I, that lift up the not just the coming of Saint Andrew to Fife in Scotland, but to the ends of the very earth, to the ends of what you and I believe is good and right and true, and that God can work anything that God can work with, but also to the long line of offerings that we have for each other, are the long line of the communion of saints that has gone before us and with us and continues to journey in our days. So I wanted to talk about Andrew today, and I also wanted to ask you for a special prayer because a little while ago here we had a missionary come in by the name of Andrew. And if you remember that, if you don't know, we don't talk a lot about it online because he's a missionary to China, and this we've helped support him in his work, and he is actually on his way. Our good friend Andrew is on his way to minister to the Chinese people once again, and this is and so. So if you remember some of this, or if you've heard some of that talk, if you didn't, that's fine. But this is a very covert thing it bears with it real risk, both for the folks that he is that are a part of his ministry and also himself, as he works um, to bend law and rule to to bring um, relief and love to the Chinese people. That our friend Andrew is actually headed to the ends of the earth, quite literally. So, my friends, I hope you will pray for that Andrew as well, and that as and maybe this one every once in a while, that in our journeying together, that in our time together, that in our the love that is created in this little space as we kind of come to pray for each other when we're worried about things, or we lift up our joys and concerns, or and to remember that is connected to that long line from Christ to the first called Andrew, to Rule, who dreamt and took the reliquaries of Andrew to Scotland, and to the long line of joys and wonders of the Scottish and so many other people that lift up Andrew as their apostle in these days. All right, friends. So that's my hope for you. I wasn't just a cheap ploy to get prayers today. Don't worry. I hope it was more than that. Maybe that's all it was. I don't know. Anyway, I'm so glad that each of you are here. You are on my heart, and as we journey together on this St. Andrew's Day. Peace and grace, my friends.